Welcome to the NAHA webinar brought to you by the National Association for Holistic Aromatherapy. To learn more about NAHA, please visit www.naha.org. Tonight's presentation topic is Demystifying Dilution of Essential Oils. This educational webinar is being presented by Emily Carpenter. Emily Carpenter of MarvyMoms.com is a certified aromatherapist, herbalist, Reiki practitioner, and a recent graduate of a 3-year diploma program in homeopathy. She has a monthly spot on Fox Rochester's Good Day Rochester show, where she talks about alternative medicine and healthier living. Emily created an essential oil dilution calculator on her blog, Marvy Moms. This helps people to use essential oils confidently and safely. To learn more about Emily, please visit her website at www.marvymoms.com. And I'd like to just take a moment and thank Emily for being here tonight and presenting on this topic.
Thanks for having me, Kelly.
Thank you. So you can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Are you ready?
All right. So tonight we're going to talk about diluting essential oils. And so it's really important that we dilute our essential oils. And sometimes when people first start using essential oils, they're told that certain brands or certain oils are safe to use neat. And that may be true in some cases. However, as far as the type of oil or certain types of essential oils in certain circumstances, under certain conditions for a certain period of time. So, but most of the time, it's not something that you want to be doing without a deep knowledge of when that's an appropriate use. So for the person just starting out, diluting essential oils is going to be a really important thing to be thinking about. So I'd like to just delve into that a little bit tonight. So I want to tell you what we will be covering tonight. We'll be talking about what is dilution, because when you start out, that may be something you may not even know. It was something certainly I didn't know when someone handed me an oil. I didn't know what to do with it or what dilution even meant. And reasons why we should be diluting essential oils. There are some really, really good ones. How much to dilute? So what percentage of a blend should be essential oils versus a carrier? And how to dilute. Plus I have an easier way, as has been mentioned a couple of times, a dilution calculator. We'll talk about that. And then the special request. I have a survey I'd like some help with. And something that we won't be covering tonight, we'll mention it quickly, aromatherapy for pets. So tonight's presentation is about human aromatherapy and using essential oils with humans. And Kelly, that's on the call tonight, is an aromatherapist that does a lot of work with animals. And she started a Facebook group called Animal Aromatherapy Safe Use. And when you get your PDF version of the slideshow, you'll get a link to that group. And I would strongly encourage anyone that has animals or that gets questions about animals and using aromatherapy with animals to check out this group. Kelly has a lot of files in the group that she spent a lot of time working on to share some great information, and she answers questions that go beyond any of that information. She's really a wonderful resource, and I recommend checking out her group.
Thank you, Emily.
Yeah, well, thank you for creating the group. I was excited to see how it grew from the beginning. And you're certainly reaching a lot of people and helping their pets to stay safe with essential oils.
Right. Yeah, it's important. It's just as important as your main topic tonight for use with humans, because one thing is with our NAHA membership, which is really wonderful, is the fact that we have so many people that are new to aromatherapy. And a lot of us veteran aromatherapists kind of take for granted the whole dilution aspect, and we know what we're doing, but it's always good for us to get reminders on it and have other resources, as well as for new people to have this wonderful tool and this educational information that you're going to share tonight.
Right. As we were talking, we sometimes think of our, we were talking earlier, that we sometimes think of our pets as our babies, you know, as our kids and our children, but they're not humans. So the same things don't necessarily apply or carry over from our human children to our pet children.
Right.
So your group is the only group that I ever recommend for animals, animal aromatherapy, because I don't know anybody that has the amount of knowledge that you do and is so dedicated to helping our furry friends. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just have a dilution here, a definition of dilution: the action of making a liquid more dilute, making something weaker in force, content, or value. A liquid that has been diluted, and plural noun would be dilution. So this is a really simple definition without regard to essential oils, but as we talk about it in regard to essential oils, I would say that dilution is taking something full strength, which in this case we're talking about an essential oil such as, let's say, tea tree oil, any essential oil, and we're taking that and making it less potent, not necessarily less effective, but less potent, so that something that's very strong and might harm us in a really strong dose can help us and heal us in a less potent dose. So dilution is how we do that. So there's a little bit of math involved. We'll talk about that in a bit, but it's just taking the essential oil in its purest form and bringing it to something less potent so that we can have the effectiveness without hurting ourselves. So, so why do we just dilute essential oils? There's a lot of different reasons. Essential oils last longer when you don't use them in their full strength. So a bottle, if you get a bottle of lavender and use it straight or neat, as we say, that's something that's not diluted, it's going to last you as many as the number of drops that are in the bottle. But if we can dilute it, then putting that oil into a carrier, some sort of fatty oil, it's going to last a lot longer because you can use less drops and have that oil for a lot longer. So then the environmental impact of diluting essential oils, again, it's making our products last longer, and as far as time, it gives us longer, a lot more uses out of it. And the environmental impact of that, it takes a lot of plant material to make an essential oil. So reduced risk of skin irritation, sensitivity, phototoxicity, and sensitization. The carrier oil helps the essential oil absorb through your skin at a rate that you want it to, rather than maybe too quickly. So back to the financial part. So I did a little simple math here. I like simple, so we'll look at if you were to use an essential oil neat, say at 100%, and we're talking maybe let's say it costs $1 a drop. There may be some oils out there that cost $1 a drop. Hopefully not everyone does, but if we look at it with that simple math in mind, then at 100% or neat, it's going to cost you $100 to use that essential oil. If you're looking at it as far as if 50%, then it's going to cost you $50. So you can see by using this simple math here that using essential oils neat is up to 100 times more expensive. And actually it could even be more than that, because 1% is not the lowest that we use essential oils. There are some oils that are recommended even a lower dosage or a lower dilution rate as a safe level. So it's important to know what those are, and thinking about cost is definitely, it's a motivator for me to know how much money I'm saving, because those oils are so precious and we want to make them last as long as we can and use them effectively still. So again, less oil is less plant material used, so it's a less of an impact on the environment. I try to throw some humor into these slides. It doesn't take a tree hugger to know that this is a good thing, although that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to be a tree hugger, obviously, but I think anyone can understand that by using less plant material that we're having less impact on the environment. That instead of having to grow 100 of something, we can grow 1 of something if that's, if we're going by the same simple math. So it gives us a lot more uses out of the plant material that we're using in the essential oils. So yeah, just another funny one there. So skin irritation, phototoxicity, and sensitization. Oh my. These are some things that are reasons, again, to dilute our essential oils. We'll start with skin irritation. You may experience redness of skin, itchy skin, discoloration of skin. This could be temporary or it could be permanent. Sometimes people have such a strong reaction to a substance on their skin that it can actually permanently change the pigment of their skin. So you don't want to find that out when you're treating something and trying to heal and suddenly you have this new thing that you're dealing with. Skin irritation is common with children and elderly and generally sensitive people, or somebody with maybe an autoimmune disease or any sort of immunocompromised state.
And this skin irritation, especially for newbies, for them to be aware, a lot of people assume this could happen with just neat use, without the oils being diluted. But it can also happen too for some people with dilution or overuse.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there's three important things. It's how much you're using, how often you're using, and just I forgot the third one. So but it's the amount that you're putting on your skin, but it's also the duration that you're using it, and then how often you're using it. So, and then phototoxicity is another thing that's a big concern with neat use or with not diluting properly, not properly diluting essential oils. So this is an image of a chemical reaction on the skin. And so, imagine a burn like this on a baby's face or the tops of your feet or anywhere on your body. Ouch is right. So this can be really painful, and we're not talking about just like a simple sunburn. When a phototoxic oil is on the skin and it's exposed to ultraviolet rays, it can create this chemical reaction that happens in the skin. It's this deep burn that can happen in the skin and cause even, third-degree burns, people with, blistering and deep burns, and depending on how long their exposure is to the sun and how much essential oil they've applied that is phototoxic. So it's important to know which oils are phototoxic. Phototoxic oils include bergamot, grapefruit, lemon, cold pressed, and lime cold pressed, and bitter orange. And you'll see that there is a form of bergamot where the bergaptan has been removed, and then lime and lemon can be steam distilled, and when they're steam distilled it doesn't leave that phototoxic chemical in them, so then they can be used without the phototoxic reaction. And sweet orange versus bitter orange. Sweet orange is not phototoxic. Tangerine, mandarin, yuzu are all not phototoxic. So there are some levels. If you look in Robert Tisserand and Rodney Young's book, Essential Oil Safety, second edition, you'll see that they talk about some levels are safe, that they're not phototoxic. So like bergamot, I can't read the numbers offhand, but there's a certain level that if you use it under that level, it's not phototoxic. And my theory is to always err on the side of caution. If it's something that I'm going to be applying to, especially to, to my face or any area that is exposed to the sun, I just try to find another oil to use. It's just not worth the risk for me to, get the percentage wrong and then have, go over that limit and then have a phototoxic reaction. I wouldn't want to be responsible for that on myself or any other person that I care about, so, or anyone for that matter. So next we're going to talk about sensitization. And what's the big deal with it? Why do people get so sensitive about sensitization? Well, it's an allergic reaction. It's not always noticeable upon first contact. So people will say, well, I've been using that oil for years, and I've never had I've never had a problem with it. I'm sure it's fine to use it. And the truth is that it doesn't always show up right away. You might have had that reaction, so the reaction actually starts occurring at first use or second use even, and subsequent uses, but there's a cumulative effect on the body so that over time you can build up an intolerance for the sensitization and then have, continue to have problems. So some things that with sensitization, it may cause skin rash, inflammation, difficulty breathing, nausea, headache. People can go into anaphylaxis. This is a really serious condition, and once you become sensitized to an oil, pretty much the rest of your life you're going to have a sensitization to that oil. I've heard numbers thrown around like for 30 years, but that's pretty much a lifetime, and after 30 years who's going to want to try it again? I've heard of people that with sensitization cannot even go near the plant even, or be around it because it causes difficulty breathing. So it's really important to use our oils wisely so that we can continue to use them and not lose that privilege. So there's always people that will say, yeah, but what about lavender? What about tea tree? What about whatever you want to say and fill in the blank? And the answer is yes, yes, yes. You can become sensitized to every essential oil. There are no exceptions. So a lot of times you'll hear about massage therapists or people that are using essential oils every single day, and they're not using any sort of wearing any gloves or having any sort of protection from the exposure, the daily constant exposure to essential oils, and they can become sensitized to essential oils. And people that work in the aromatherapy field even, that work bottling essential oils or creating blends for clients, can become sensitized to oils because it's so important to just use precautions when blending. Again, it's possible to become sensitized to any essential oil. So making sure that you're using caution when you're blending. So wearing gloves, and especially if you're going to be doing this on any sort of with any sort of regularity, because a lot of times you may have noticed if you open a bottle, there could be some dripping from the bottle when you first open it, or you could drop it on your skin instead of in the container, so or even spill it. So it's important to have some safety precautions so that you're not getting that accidental neat use, because even that can be harmful over time.
Right, or even suggestion too for people to use different oils, alternate oils. Don't get used to using the same oil over and over again, like especially lavender. A lot of people use that to help with sleep, and if they keep putting that on their pillowcase, they can even get a reaction on the face over time.
Right.
And then tea tree is in so many over-the-counter products as well too, so it's good to alternate and switch up and even take a break from using oils.
Exactly. It's good to keep in mind too that the essential oils that we use in our blending or in making products for ourselves are not the only exposure that we have to essential oils or to these plants. So you have to consider everything that you're using. Any store-bought, anything can contain essential oils or different things. So you got to think about the whole picture and where that's all coming from. I mean, I love lavender, and I have lavender soap that I love, but I don't use it all the time. I have it as part of my rotation in the soaps that I use, and I will use it for sleep, but not all the time, because there's other things that can do the same, have the same sort of effect. And I've noticed as I use the essential oils, as I rotate them, I get a better effect, if as opposed to using them continuously over time. So another thing that can happen, we talk about sensitization, but the thing that I don't think I have a slide for here is desensitization. So having used an essential oil so much that eventually it stops having the desired effect. So, Yeah, so you could be using something for sleep, and this is a great, this is a great sleep blend. I'm going to use this every night for the rest of my life because it can help me sleep. But the thing is that eventually you may find that it's not working, or that you can build up the sensitivity to it. So it's good to rotate your oils and the blends that you're using so that each one will have the effect that you're intending to have. So some risk factors for sensitization would include using an essential oil neat, undiluted on the skin. That's why we dilute. Using an essential oil above the recommended max solution. Some are as low as less than 0.25%. So that's pretty low. So you got to really know what the max solution is for an essential oil. Using an essential oil for a prolonged period of time with no break. So continually using something over and over again, especially the stronger that you're using it, the more chance of this happening if you're using it over a prolonged period of time. So a lot of times people use essential oils for pain management, and you find one that really works really well, and you think it's going to be something that's only going to be a short period of time that you're going to have that pain, but then it ends up going for a lot longer than you expected, and so you forget to switch up your oils. So it's good to keep looking for alternatives. And essential oils for me are part of my toolkit. They're not the only thing. Aromatherapy is one of the things that I use. I have many other tools in my toolbox. So using aromatherapy is awesome, and it's not the only thing. So finding other ways to come at pain or at whatever condition you're having, taking a multi-mode approach it can be really effective. So have I convinced you yet? Napoleon says, all right, already, Vanessa, we can go half. Gosh, how do we do this? Because I'm ready, he's ready to dilute his essential oils. So we can talk about general dilution guidelines. These are just very general guidelines. So 1% dilution for children over 2 years old, elderly, or immunocompromised. And again, these are general. So some people will say no essential oils before before 5 years old or 2 years old, or there's different numbers that are floating out there, but these are very general guidelines. And then 2% dilution for a healthy adult. So these are when we're talking about general dilution guidelines, we're talking about for the different types of constitutions, but also these are more things that are going to be everyday use sort of things. So you might go higher if you're having an acute situation. So 3% dilution would be acute use, short-term and small area. But again, this can be a lot higher or lower based on what the condition is that you're treating, and all the other factors to consider. So it's really, again, I just want to keep driving it home that it's important to really think about how you're using essential oils, and thinking about what's the lowest dilution that I can get away with to have a therapeutic effect. So when we're talking about therapeutic effect, we're looking at what is the desired therapeutic effect. Let's say pain management. So we want something to not hurt anymore. Maybe a sore elbow. We want the elbow to stop hurting. So starting with the lowest dilution, and then you can always add more drops later until you get up to that therapeutic level. But if you start at 100% using an essential oil neat, you're never going to know that 1% would have been all that you needed. Then you're using more essential oils than you need. You're putting yourself at risk for sensitization, and all that you needed was 1%. So, it's good to start as low as possible and then build up from there. And I mentioned this earlier, but an Essential Oil Safety by Tisserand and Young, they will discuss on each oil max solutions where it's I don't think every oil has a max solution listed, but the ones where it's really important, they're definitely listed. So keep these rates in mind for topical blends especially. And maximum dilution rate for an individual oil will always have priority over other dilution guidelines. So as the last slide I showed, or a couple slides ago, I showed the general guidelines, and then for certain oils that might be that 0.25% max solution, then you're not going to have a 1% blend, you're going to have 0.25% of that particular oil. So guidelines are there to save you from hurting yourself or someone else, and there are no absolutes, unless of course you're talking about absolutes. So
Right.
right.
I love that slide. It's a great slide.
Yeah. So yeah, there's always exceptions, there's always special circumstances. That's why people go through training to become an aromatherapist, so we can learn about what those exceptions might be. And then we continue to learn, because sometimes those things change. The experts don't always know everything, or they know as much as they can at the moment, and then new information comes out, and then we learn more, or we change guidelines with some regularity. So it's important to know what the current thinking is on something versus, what you think works, or, and then just going from there. And then I won't go into what absolutes are, but if you're a beginner, look that up. It's a good thing to learn about too. It's another type, sort of like an essential oil, but not quite. So it's another way that we use plants. So the best way is to measure by weight. So this is the most accurate form of measurement, is when we can measure by weight, because weight is weight. So if you put something on a scale, you know that it's going to be that amount. And depending on how you're blending, this is used more for people that are blending commercially, that are making large amounts, because the larger the amount, the more accurate you're going to have a measurement, or you're going to need to buy a really sensitive scale that's going to be able to go down to a small amount. If you're measuring drops, you're going to have a really sensitive scale to measure that amount. But if you're measuring more, one of my customers makes her own skincare products, and so she buys vats. I mean, when she buys coconut oil, she doesn't buy a gallon. That's the most I've ever bought of coconut oil, is a gallon. She buys barrels of coconut oil and uses them for blending. So when she's doing her blending, she's using a scale because she needs the accuracy. When we're doing stuff at home, or making things even for like a one-off for a client, we're measuring usually with a different method, which is usually referred to as drop-by-drop method. So this is where we're assuming a weight of an essential oil, so that we can come up with the percentage of what that dilution is going to be in the final blend. So how many drops are in a milliliter? It depends, right? So
Right.
it depends on a few things. Size matters, right? So there's different droppers that essential oil bottles have. Some bottles don't have orifice reducer. These are all orifice reducers here, and they have little holes in them that show that where the oil comes through, and those are different sizes. So it would seem that they would all be universal, but they're really not. There's what we call let's see if I have my little pointer here, the European dropper right here, because it has this, I can't think of what that term, what that word is, but this part here makes it the European dropper. But you can see here that the sizes of these holes are all going to be slightly different. So that means that the drop size is going to be different. The oil itself may be a different, viscosity or density, so that is going to determine how quickly the drop comes out, and maybe how big the drop is in the final drop. So
Right, like something like a citrus oil going to come out very quickly versus something like vetiver or sandalwood.
Exactly. Yep. So some experts will say 20 drops. Some experts will say 30 drops, and I think the difference may be what size dropper they're used to using, depending on where they are and situated in the world, or what companies they're using. So again, the best way is to measure by weight. It's really the only way then to get an accurate measurement, although again, it's not something practical for everybody to be doing all the time, so we do that drop by drop method. So I like to err on the side of the caution, and go by the 20 drop number when I'm not really sure, because for one thing, it's easier math, and I really don't like complicated math at all. I like simple math, as as we've talked about earlier, and so I try to keep it as simple as possible. So looking at the 20 drops is a lot easier to think about versus 30 drops. When you think about 20 drops and you're thinking about 5 milliliters, so 20 times 5 equals 100 drops, so there's 100 drops within 5 milliliters. So if you make up a 5 milliliter blend, then you know 1 drop will be 1% of that blend. Easy math. So so let's talk about carriers a little bit. Carriers are fun, not to mention therapeutic. They're a great way to add to the therapeutic benefit of your blending. So when we choose essential oils to put into a blend, we're thinking about what their therapeutic effect is going to be, and then carriers should not be overlooked in that area either. They're really a great way to extend that ability and have that synergy between the between the carrier and the essential oils to give us the desired effect in the end. So I do have my personal favorites. Fractionated coconut oil and jojoba oil are the two that I probably use most frequently. They're the only two oils I've ever bought in gallon size because they're just always good to have on hand. They have a forever shelf life, or close enough to it. They really can last for a very long time, so I'm not worried about my blends going bad. And they're also ones that I have used just with even no essential oils in them. They tend to be easy to get, so you may not be able to go and pick them up at the grocery store, your local grocery store, but you can order them online at least, and they're they're relatively inexpensive compared to some other oils, and and you can often buy them in larger quantities. Like I mentioned, I bought each of these by the gallon, whereas some of the more specialty oils are more expensive and more difficult to source. So that all, to me, like I said, the math concept. I like to keep math simple. I like to really I like to really not think a lot. So as far as the math, and I'm afraid that if I screw up the math, I'm going to screw up the blend, and I don't like to do that. So I was banging my head against the wall every time I did a blend and trying to figure it out, and I would sit down with my calculator and my notebook and write it all out and try to figure everything out. And it was, people would ask questions online that I noticed in the Facebook groups about how many drops do I put in if I want this solution or that dilution. And so I thought there must be an easier way that, so I came up with the essential oil dilution calculator to save time in my brain. So,
Right.
Yeah. So this is, just something that it's a really simple calculator, again, based on the 20 drop assumption. So I'm assuming there are 20 drops in 1 milliliter with this calculator. And so there's two different ways to use the calculator. The first way is to find out how many drops you need to add of essential oil to your blending. Let's see. So if your container is, you can say whether it's measured in milliliters or ounces. Those are the two common ways that containers that people are using with their blending. So you put in the size. So in this case, it's a 10 milliliter container, and I wanted to make a 1% dilution. So I put those numbers in, and at the bottom here it tells me add 2 drops of essential oil to your container and top with carrier. So it makes it really simple. So I use this every time I blend. I can bring it up on my phone, and while I'm in the kitchen making a blend for someone, I can put these numbers in and not have to think and not do the math. So I'm happy to share it with all of you, but I really did do it just for myself. if I'm going to be honest, I was tired of doing the math. So. And then the other way that you can use the calculator is finding out what an existing blend's drops are. So a lot of times you'll find a recipe online, and we'll see these memes of giving you a recipe for something, and you think, oh, that seems a little high. How high is that blend? And you want to know what's in it. So again, it's the same sort of thing. You just talk about what measurement you're using, how many milliliters in your container, and then the total drops of the oil in the recipe. And yeah, if you see this 150% dilution, somebody call the dilution police. It's a little too high, obviously. This is to show a point, to be funny, but this calculator just does math. It doesn't know that the 150% dilution isn't possible, yeah, obviously, but making sure that this is to make sure that your recipes are safe and that they're within the guidelines of whatever you're trying to do. So if it was, 200 drops, it would obviously be a neat recipe. And if where it was only essential oils, or sometimes we refer to that as a master blend. So you could be blending and every oil in there is, there is no carrier in the blend that you're making. That's what we call a master blend. So you take a recipe and use it, and then so some of these recipes that are out there that are neat recipes that don't give any guidelines for how to dilute them, doesn't mean they're necessarily a bad recipe, but you can take that, make it into a master blend, and then use only a drop or two into whatever you're blending into. So if you have a 10 milliliter container and you want 1%, you're going to put in those 2 drops and have a 1% dilution with the master blend. So don't throw away all those recipes just because they're high, but think about how you can adjust them to make them what you need for your situation. So I feel like we're going through here quickly, Kelly.
Yeah, you're
yeah.
sharing a lot of information, or unless like if somebody's looking for, I know they use the word master blend too, but like synergies too. They wanted to figure out what the percentage was in that too. They could use the tool, which I think is great, especially for people, again, that are getting started and not sure.
Right. I'm going to turn off my pointer here so I'm not getting that red thing going across the screen. So dilute all the essential oils, make sure that you're looking at all the different oils in a blend. And so it's important to look at a couple of different things. When you're diluting essential oils, you're looking at what the max dilution is for that particular, what the individual oils in the blend, the max dilution for each of those oils should be considered. And then also the overall dilution for the entire blend that you're making. So let's say you might have you have a master blend, so you're putting in 5 drops of 4 different oils. You have 20 drops now, and then you're taking that and putting it into a blend. So now we're looking at the dilution of the entire blend. So so it's not just you're looking at the individual oils and what that percentage is in the overall final product, but also what the total blend is going to be. So when you say it's a 2% blend, it should be a 2% total of all essential oils that are in the blend. So you're not going to put in 2 drops of lavender and 2 drops of tea tree and 2 drops of frankincense. Then you're up to where am I at a 10 milliliter bottle, up to like a 3% blend now, because I've added in 2 of each instead of 2 total of the master blend. So that's for master blend. Having a master blend can really come in handy, because where you might want to put in 5 or 6 different oils, but you only have a 10 milliliter container, the master blend gives you that something to, you know, work with, and then you can dilute that down rather than trying to figure out a tenth of a drop of this and a tenth of a drop of that. It's really not practical to blend that way when you're trying to make a smaller container or smaller end product. So the Master Blend gives you that option of breaking it down, and then you can use it in different types of products. You can put it into a roller bottle or into a aroma stick, or however you want to use that. That blend can be used in various ways. So just to go over what we covered so far, we talked about what is dilution, why we would dilute, how much to dilute, and how to dilute, plus an easier way. And we did not talk about animal aromatherapy, right? So we're talking only about humans tonight. And again, I would encourage you to check out Kelly's group and join that. And then the special request that I have is I'd like you to go ahead and tell me what you think. So I'd like to maybe do some improvements to the essential oil dilution calculator. And so there's a link here, and you'll see a link in the final PDF that's sent to you whenever that goes out. I think in a couple of weeks you'll get that. So if you could, you know, check out the calculator on marvymoms.com, and then also this link that you're seeing here is to go to a survey, and then on there the survey will ask you questions about what you like about the calculator, what you'd like improved, and a chance to get updates to find out when those things are done. So you can give us your name or not give us your name, that's up to you. I just want some good information so I can decide what improvements I can make for the calculator. So I appreciate anybody that can go and help me with that.
Right, and when they go to that link, it will have a link to the calculator, so they can go try it and check it out.
Exactly.
Too. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You can go right to the site, and right in on the home, you know, on the home page, there's a graphic on there. It says to, you know, go to the essential oil dilution calculator, and then so that's one way you can get to it. But if you go to the survey, there's also a link there.
So we have like about 10 minutes left, and I was thinking that how about you just take some time and share with the people that are here how you got into aromatherapy, and now we know why you created the calculator, because you wanted to keep easy math, which I love, and I think is a great tool, because aromatherapy has grown in leaps and bounds, and there's so much information out there, especially on social media. So this is wonderful that people have this calculator, but that you also are on this TV show and educating people too. If you could just kind of share a little bit about how you started and then got to where you are, and the whole aspect of the dilution, why that was so important for you.
Yeah, I'd love to. So when I first started with, well, I can't tell you really the first time, maybe a dozen years ago that I first learned about essential oils, and I bought a few, and I had a friend that made her own blends and had a lot of knowledge in that. She has a lot of knowledge in that area, and so I wanted to, I bought a bunch of blends for her. Actually, I sold her mist spray. She sells some, she calls them vibrational mists. And so I bought a bunch of those and actually sold some of them in a local health food store here for a little while for her. And so anyway, I would sit with her, and I saw her blending, and I wanted to learn about it. So I went out and I bought a few essential oils. And my mom said to me, who knows nothing about aromatherapy, she said, be careful with those things, because if you use them at full strength, you can really hurt yourself. And I don't know where she got this information, but she somehow knew that. And so I was afraid to use them, honestly. So I ended up never using them. They sat in this little bag in my closet for a few years until I realized that I should probably just throw them away. They probably weren't good anymore. I knew that much. So fast forward maybe 10 years from then, or 9 or 10 years, and I was interested in, I found a box in my closet, and I hadn't unpacked it from the move a couple years before that. And it was all those vibrational mists that my friend Rachel had made, and I got them out of the box, and I had maybe 30 different ones. She makes over 200 different ones, I think. She makes a lot of stuff. But this, I had maybe 30 of them, and I got them out and fell in love with them again. And they were, you know, they still smell good. All these years later, they were still great. And so I started spraying them and using them, and my son loved them. He was asking for them, and he'd say, I want my morning spray, or can you give me my nighttime spray? And he was asking to use these oils, but I realized that all these mists that I had were for my needs 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever number of years ago, not for what my son might need them for. So I wanted to start thinking about maybe doing some of my own blending, because he was so drawn to them, that maybe I could make something that he really liked. So I remembered a friend that sold essential oils with a company, and so I wanted to talk to her and see, you know, she had told me a couple of times that she was selling oils and that what an impact they'd had on her family. And so, you know, she had kept that door open with me. So I called her one day and I asked her if I could come over and see what she had. So I went over to her house and I sat on her couch, and her kids were there, and she had, you know, got out her kit of all these essential oils that she had, and she rolled something on her kids' feet while I was there, and did all this stuff and told me all the great things she was doing with the oils. And by the time I left there, I had bought a kit and spent close to $200, and I really had no idea what I just spent my money on. I didn't know what to do with them. I didn't know what, you know, what they even were. I didn't even know really what was in the kit. Some of the things were a single oil, some of them were blends. One of them had a safety cap on it because it, you know, had some strong oils in it, but I didn't know any of this or what all that meant. And they actually didn't even get the kit. I just ordered it and gave them my social security number, I think, even to do that. And then I got home and I thought, what did I just buy? What did I just do? And is it true that this person that sold me these oils told me that her company that she, you know, got oils from was the only company that was safe, and that if I used anything else that it, you know, it was dangerous? So I wanted to know if that was true, and I wanted to know if there was any other brands out there that were safe, that were effective and cheaper, you know, that would get me the same effect but not cost me so much. And I wanted to find a way that I could learn more about them. So I started looking at Facebook groups about essential oils. I started looking at blogs about essential oils, and I wanted to really learn what was out there. And so I came up with this master list, an Excel spreadsheet essentially, of different companies, and I just started contacting them. And in the end, I've interviewed over 20 essential oil companies. I've listed 10 of those on my blog. Those, you know, I've published those interviews with the companies on my blog, and I found out there's a whole lot of great companies out there that are really interested in safe and effective use of essential oils and helping their customers to use them effectively, and that don't cost maybe as much as the company that I bought them from originally. So I actually returned my kit because I realized I could get a whole lot more for my money if I didn't, than if I kept it. And so I returned it, and it took me a couple of months, I think, before they would actually give me a thing so I could actually return it. But I was persistent. I was able to return the kit, and they resent me one. So I actually do have those oils because they resent it to me, and I didn't go through the hullabaloo to return it again. I figured I'd already spent enough time on that the first time. So I actually have some of their oils, but I don't really use them because I have so many other great oils in my refrigerator dedicated to essential oils. And they're, you know, so I got these essential oils from, you know, as I was interviewing the companies, the 20 companies that I interviewed, they were sending me their essential oils to experience them. I didn't have the budget at the time to go and buy all these oils from every company and try them, so I asked them to send them to me, and they did. And I ended up with close to $2,000, I think, worth of essential oils. And then I thought, well, here we go again. I've got all these oils. I don't know what to do with them, right? Like now I know there's different companies I can buy from that are great companies, and that, you know, I don't have to spend as much, but I didn't know what to do with them still. So I started to look for education, and so I found Aromahead, and you know, I looked at several different schools. I really liked her style of teaching and wanted to learn from her. So I started the aromatherapy certification program with Aromahead pretty quickly. And then in the meantime, while I was, you know, I was actually looking for a local school, but there was nothing within a 2-hour drive. And with my son, I think at the time was 3 or 4, it just wasn't possible for me to get away and do something outside of the area. So I was looking for online options, and found Aromahead. But since then, I've done a lot more education with different teachers, and I love learning from different teachers. I think it's really important to hear different perspectives and learn from different people. So that's the long and short of it.
Right.
But you know, as I was looking for a local school, I couldn't find anything local for aromatherapy, but I found a teacher that taught me. You know, I went through a 3-year program in homeopathy and 2 years in herbal medicine, and then got my redid my Reiki. I had originally done it like 12 years ago, and then redid that, and went on to another, you know, to level 2 with that. So and I love how everything kind of ties into each other and is complementary. So
Right, and like when you mentioned studying with different teachers too, just like with the essential oils, there's some people that are new to aromatherapy may not be aware of. There's been a lot of companies that have been around for a very long time that are
yeah.
smaller based companies that are very into sustainability and awareness for the plant and just like with learning from different teachers, it's great to get oils from different companies and experience that, as well as experience learning from other educators, and that's why these webinars are great too. So, and like
Right.
you,
I
a lot
mean,
of people have bought the oils first and then seek the
right.
education later.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's really good that people know that NAHA, they can go to the NAHA website and learn from there as well too. So I really appreciate you being here tonight with your presentation, and we'll go
Sure.
ahead and stop the recording and open up for some Q&A, okay?
Great. Thanks, Kelly.